Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, Texas standoff. Dozens of Texas Democrats leave the state in order to block a vote on redrawn congressional maps that could give Republicans 5 new seats ahead of next year's midterms.
I'm Mireya Villarreal in Austin at the state capitol with more details on the deadline that Governor Abbott has set for Democrats to return to the state immediately and what will happen if they don't.
Plus, we'll talk to Texas Democrat Jasmine Crockett and California Republican Kevin Kiley. Wildfire smoke sweeps across the Great Lakes into the Northeast, triggering air quality warnings, while heavy rains and flash flood threats continue in the Southeast. This is extreme heat and dry conditions raise the danger of fire out west. Ginger Z has the details. Devastating images. Hamas releases video of emaciated hostages in Gaza, raising the pressure on Israel for a ceasefire.
I'm in panel in Tel Aviv with reaction from the families of hostages seen in those videos.
And home ownership, it's part of the American dream, but with that role comes a responsibility many dread: property taxes. In tonight's Prime Focus, ABC investigates a nationwide pattern of highballed tax assessments when property tax bills are disproportionately high in majority non-white neighborhoods, so much so that it could leave homeowners homeless.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. They say everything is bigger in Texas, and we begin this Monday night with the Texas-sized showdown over congressional maps and the implications this is already having across the country. Dozens of Democratic state legislators have left the state, denying Republicans quorum to pass redistricting legislation that typically takes place after the census each decade. Late today, Governor Greg Abbott said that he has ordered the arrest of those Democrats until all return to the Texas state capitol in Austin. All this comes after President Trump asked Republicans weeks ago to help the GOP pick up 5 more seats in Congress, triggering this battle over redistricting. And today, Democratic governors in California and New York threatened if the Texas maps go through, there would be a response. We're standing by to be joined by Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, whose seat might be in jeopardy under this new map. Our Mireya Villarreal in Texas. But first, Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl leads us off.
Tonight, the governor of Texas is threatening to arrest any Democratic lawmaker who has left the state, as dozens have, to avoid voting on new congressional maps designed to favor Republicans. I ordered the Texas Department of Safety to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any member who has abandoned their duty to Texans. Governor Abbott declared in a statement, this order will remain in effect until all missing Democrat House members are accounted for and brought to the Texas Capitol. Until at least some of the Texas Democrats return to the state, there won't be a quorum in the State House, and a vote on the new congressional districts can't go forward.
Members, a quorum is not present.
Republicans voted to issue civil arrest warrants to bring the Democrats back to the Capitol, but those warrants have no power outside of the state of Texas. More than 50 of the Democratic lawmakers have left, some to Illinois, others to New York and Massachusetts.
We just arrived here in Chicago.
I made it safely to Chicago.
We are breaking quorum.
My Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab.
Republicans are seeking to redraw the state's congressional districts in a way that could help Republicans win 5 extra House seats in next year's midterm elections. The move was demanded by President Trump, who is eager to preserve the narrow Republican majority in Congress.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
Are you calling in for a complete redrawing of the congressional map?
No, just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
Although Democrats have also skewed congressional district maps to favor their party in states they control, redistricting usually only happens after a new once-a-decade census. Now the Democratic governors of California and New York are threatening to change their congressional districts to retaliate against Texas.
And we're going to fight fire with fire.
Then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same.
John Karl joins us now from the White House. And John, some breaking news from the governor. You'll have more on that in a second. But first, this could be pricey for Democrats out of state. How much are they losing each day?
Well, every one of those Democrats faces, Linsey, a $500 per day fine, $500 for every day that they are out of the state. obviously that can add up. Meanwhile, the breaking news from the governor, from Governor Abbott, he has just said that he has asked the Texas Rangers to initiate an investigation into those Democrats to see whether any of them either solicited or accepted funds to pay for their travels outside of Texas. Doing so, he says, may be a violation of Texas bribery laws. So bottom line, the governor clearly ratcheting up his efforts to try to force these Democrats, or at least some of them, to come back to the state.
Indeed. It seems like he is pushing all the pressure points. John Carl from the White House. Thanks so much, John. And for more on this now, we're joined by ABC's Maria Villarreal, who's tracking the latest developments for us from Austin, Texas. And Maria, I know you've been there at the Capitol all day today. What's the word now that these warrants have come out for the arrest of some of these Democratic leaders?
You know, I've spoken to at least two of them, one in Chicago and one in New York City. Both basically tell me that they are going to keep moving forward with the message here, which is basically they want to take a stand for people in their community, especially communities of color. In fact, right behind me, we have a rally going on actually in front of the governor's mansion to try and get the attention of not just the governor, but really Republicans that are here in the city of Austin and still planning to obviously be in the Capitol tomorrow, 1 p.m. when the House is gavelled in once again, Lindsay.
And this whole battle comes as we mark 1 month since those devastating floods in central Texas. Lawmakers were supposed to discuss disaster relief during this special session. Could this standoff further delay the recovery efforts?
100%. I mean, that is what a lot of people are talking about, not just here in Austin, but also in Kirk County, where the flooding happened and took the lives of more than 130 people. You know, I asked the two Democrats that I've been speaking with, the one in Chicago and New York, you know, how does this impact some of the bigger issues that you guys are supposed to be tackling? And they said, listen, we tried to ask Republicans early on to tackle the issue of flooding before we got into redistricting. Let's get the big stuff out of the way, and then let's see if we can compromise on redistricting. That was not a compromise that was met. And in fact, the first bill that made it to the floor of the House today was the redistricting. Democrats felt like they were being pushed to give a rubber stamp to the Trump administration. They weren't willing to do that, which is why they fled and obviously broke quorum. At this point in time, though, we know that the governor is not messing around. He has basically asked the Rangers to come in. Civil warrants have been issued. These Dems are not swayed right now. They basically say they're here for the long haul.
Maria Villarreal for us. Thanks so much. Joining us now for more is Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Governor Abbott just announced that he has ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and arrest the House Democrats who have fled the state. You're in the Chicago area with some of those Democratic representatives. What's the plan with them? Obviously, at some point, you have to return to the state of Texas eventually. So ultimately, does it seem that it's a foregone conclusion that this bill will pass?
I don't say ultimately. I never say ultimately because I don't have a give up attitude whatsoever. But right now, the governor has decided that he wants to waste more of Texans' resources by deciding that he's going to send out the troopers. And listen, I don't even think that he's going to do that. I think he's just talking. Earlier today, I posted a copy of the warrant that was signed by the speaker, because it's the speaker of the House that can put the call on the House, not the governor. And no one came to get me last time. In fact, it is a cute little warrant that has a cute little frame on it. And so they like to talk a big game, but the reality is that, number one, you have a lot of intelligent attorneys that actually serve in the Texas House. And so they know that there's nothing that he can do outside of the Texas jurisdiction to bring them in. This is one of the reasons they are in another state. His authority does not extend throughout the entirety of the United States. So he's just talking the big talk so that, you know, he can rile up his base. Ultimately, what will happen, we don't know. I know that we've been in litigation since 2021 over the current maps. I am one of the plaintiffs in that case, and I do know that the state the entire time has taken the position that they issued maps that were race neutral. And then all of a sudden, once they got a letter from the DOJ that talked about race, they somehow flipped the script and they decided that they wanted to do new maps, seemingly at their prompting. So now they're kind of dancing around their position, and now it seems like they're going to flip positions.
You've said that the new maps do nothing but divide, distract, and depress. What's your understanding of how your district will change if these maps do pass?
Yeah, so my district, what they did is they did a thing that they packed my district up and then they cracked minorities from another community. And so what they did is they've increased the number of African Americans in my district. But while they were cracking out persons from another community and packing them into my community, they also removed all the economic engines, which is yet another red flag. This means that I don't have Southwest Airlines or JSX Airlines or Dallas Love Airport or Downtown or AT&T or Goldman Sachs, and the list goes on of amazing companies and corporations that I'm typically bringing in to make sure that we can talk about economic opportunities for the people that live in my district, including getting rid of the medical center in my district as well.
In response to this plan, we've seen Democrats in states like New York and California say that they would look into redistricting as well. Would you encourage them to do that?
I absolutely do. We are in a fight for the soul of this country. Morality seems to be out the window and legality seems to be out the window. But hopefully we can bring some of that back. And it is going to take a real fight. And sometimes you got to get down on the level that they're on. These people they're grimy. It is time for us to show other Democrats and even independents, or honestly, Americans, that we are up for this fight, that we are not weak, that we will not allow a bully to punch us in our face and then say thank you and I'm sorry, but instead we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House, because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid, because they know that they have not done anything to better anybody's lives, no matter how you affiliate yourself and no matter where you live in this country. He has done something to hurt all of us. And it is time for our voices to be heard, because that is what a democracy looks like.
Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, we so appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
And we are joined now by a Republican congressman who's proposing a bill that would ban all mid-decade redistricting and nullify any new maps approved before the 2030 census. California Congressman Kevin Kiley, thank you so much for your time. Why are you introducing this bill?
Well, I'm introducing it because California Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to completely throw out the window the principles that have guided our redistricting process in California and that are part of our Constitution. Our Constitution specifically bars doing redistricting in the middle of the decade, and it sets up an independent citizens commission for drawing district lines. This was established by the voters themselves, by the way. They said that we don't want politicians drawing lines for their own district. That's an inherent conflict of interest. We want it done by an independent commission of citizens based on feedback from citizens all across California who can draw districts that actually make sense. So that's the way it's been in California after the 2010 census and after the 2020. And now the governor is trying to short circuit all of that, to blow it all up, to throw these principles out the window, to return power to his and other politicians' hands, precisely what the voters said they didn't want. And so my bill will stop that from happening, and it will also stop this national redistricting war from playing out all across the country that I think would be very damaging to democracy and representative government, and a huge distraction from the very important issues we have facing the country.
Because to be clear, you're just not concerned about California, but also Texas's plan to redistrict.
Well, I'm concerned first and foremost about California because I represent California, and I have a grave concern about the damage that this is going to do to democracy in our state. But no, I don't love what's going on in Texas, and I don't like the idea of this happening all across the country and this sort of domino effect of one state after another. I don't think that's good for Republicans. I don't think it's good for Democrats. I don't think it's good for voters. I don't think it's good for representatives. I certainly don't think it's a good thing for the country.
President Trump was the one who asked Texas to do this. What would you say to him if he called you and asked you to drop this bill?
Well, ultimately, I think that the responsibility here rests with the Speaker and with Leader Jeffries, for that matter, to show some leadership and to bring this madness to an end, this chaos of states all across the country constantly shifting district lines around, upending districts, changing who a given person represents, what communities they represent. That's not the way the process is supposed to work. It introduces incredible instability. I think that the president, unfortunately, I don't think was given the full information about exactly how everything here would play out and the counter reaction that it would produce. I don't think the president wants to see the political map upended in California or New York or any of these other states. And certainly, I don't think he wants to see our Republican delegation in California reduced down to 3 out of 52 seats, which is what, by the way, the governor is trying to do. When Republicans have over 40% of the vote in California in statewide elections, he'd like to reduce us to 3 out of 52 seats. So at the end of the day, I think that both the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Minority Leader Jeffries have a mutual interest in making sure that this does not proceed any further. And so I've called upon the Speaker and the Minority Leader to show some leadership here and to stop this very harmful thing from playing out all across the country.
If the Texas plan does go through and California follows suit, are you concerned that you might lose your seat?
I'm not particularly concerned about my seat. I won my last race by 46,000 votes, and I've been fortunate to get support from Democrats, Republicans, and independent voters, and there's only so much they could do there. But I'm very concerned about the future of democracy in California and this attempt by the governor to subvert the will of our voters. It was California voters themselves who voted overwhelmingly to say that we want the process of drawing district lines taken out of the hands of politicians and put into the hands of an independent commission. And now the governor is trying in the middle of the decade to put it back in the hands of politicians, the very thing the voters said they didn't want it. And I think that when it comes to setting the rules of the road in our democracy, when we start introducing this extreme politicization into that process, as the governor of our state is trying to do, that's a very troubling thing. And so my bill is designed to say, all right, let's take a deep breath. Enough is enough. This is not a road that we want to go down.
Congressman Kevin Kiley, we thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Millions of Americans are under dangerous air quality alerts tonight. Smoke from more than 700 raging wildfires in Canada is spreading across the Midwest and Northeast. In Boston, flights were grounded at Logan Airport for a time, and Detroit and Chicago started their day among the top 10 cities with the worst air quality in the world. More than 30 wildfires are also burning out west, prompting evacuations in California. Here's ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z with more.
Tonight, air quality alerts for millions from the Great Lakes to the Northeast as wildfires in the U.S. and Canada rage. New England skies covered in thick, hazy smoke. WCVB's chief meteorologist Cindy Fitzgibbon.
And this is what it looks like in Worcester. This is what it looks like in Boston.
At Boston's Logan Airport, the FAA issuing a brief ground stop, blaming the smoke. Dozens of flights delayed. There are air quality alerts up from New York City and back through the Great Lakes. Meteorologist Mike Taylor from our Detroit affiliate WXYZ.
This puts you in the unhealthy criteria. Simply put, that means that it's just bad air for everybody.
The air quality rating in the Detroit area among the worst in the world today. The culprit? Smoke from more than 700 wildfires in Canada. Meanwhile, in California, hot, dry conditions fueling multiple major wildfires. The Gifford Fire north of Santa Barbara, which nearly tripled in size Saturday, now burning more than 100 square miles and still out of control. At least 3 people injured, 1 suffering serious burns.
And Ginger's with us now, tracking those dry conditions out west and also some extreme weather hitting the south. Hi, Ginger.
Hey, Lindsay. So the air quality alerts also is something behind me, evident that we have the smoky skies, and the air quality is at that unhealthy for sensitive groups category, not just here, but back down to Delaware, up to Maine, and throughout the Great Lakes, Northwest Indiana, up to Green Bay, Wisconsin. How long does it stick around? Well, we're going to see this at least through the midweek. We will see a little ocean breeze helping us out, at least at the coast, by Wednesday, but a lot of folks will be dealing with the rest of this. And just to mention, people are saying, well, I don't remember it being this bad. You know, Canada so far this year had a big and early start. More than 16 million acres burned. That is more than twice their average to date. Let's talk about that other threat in the south that you were mentioning, and that's the flood alerts from Atlanta down through southwestern Georgia into the Florida Panhandle, even parts of southeastern Alabama. 2-inch per hour rainfall rates possible through tomorrow with these slow-moving storms. It's a stationary front there. And it's that time of year we have to look at the Atlantic Basin because climatologically this is the time where it wakes up, and boy is it. Thankfully, no immediate impacts to land, but we're watching those 3 areas pretty closely. Right now, only rip current threats possible for South and North Carolina, but you know we'll stay all over it.
We know you will. Hopefully things will stay quiet, at least for now. Ginger, thank you. There were some scary moments this morning on a commuter train bound for New York City when a fire broke out. Video shows the train filling up with smoke. Passengers were on board at the time, reportedly begging the conductor to open the doors. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has the latest.
Panic and chaos as smoke filled this commuter path train headed for Manhattan at the start of the morning rush.
Easy, guys.
A fire on board sending flames shooting out from under the train as commuters inside begged the conductor to open the door so they could escape. First responders swarming the station in Jersey City, New Jersey, where they treated 13 people for smoke inhalation, 9 of them taken to the hospital. The fire stranding commuters.
There are no trains out of Hoboken right now, so we are trying to make it to a ferry.
Service suspended for nearly 5 hours on PATH trains, which run nearly 200,000 trips in and out of New York City every day.
Some horrific scenes there, thanks to Stephanie. A small plane crashed into the ocean off the coast of North Carolina as beachgoers watched on and captured not only that terrifying moment that hit the water, but also the dramatic rescue. Here's ABC's Mola Lange.
Tonight, the exact moment a plane crashes.
Oh my God!
Off the North Carolina coast, caught on video, striking the water and flipping over. The single-engine plane going down near Oak Island Saturday evening. Water rescue teams already in the area after responding to another call nearby, seen rushing to the crash site, approaching the submerged plane by boat, jet ski, and even surfboard. The pilot speaking to ABC affiliate WWAY.
At a certain point, the engine just completely stopped, the propeller stopped. And at that point, I knew that I was going to have to land in the water.
Officials say he was safely removed from the wreckage and treated on shore for non-life-threatening injuries. The plane later towed from the water.
Well, Lindsay, officials say the pilot was the only person on board. And tonight, the FAA is investigating the incident. Lindsay?
Mola, thank you. More than 3,000 Boeing workers at plants that build F-15 fighter jets and missile systems went on strike this morning in Missouri and Illinois. The union representing the workers authorized the strike after it rejected Boeing's new 4-year contract offer, which included a 20% pay raise over 4 years. Workers say that they demand a contract that, quote, reflects their skill, dedication, and the critical role they play in the nation's defense. 2 urgent manhunts tonight, the first in Tennessee, where police are searching for the suspect accused of killing a family of 4 and then allegedly kidnapping and abandoning their baby. And in Montana, authorities are looking for a man wanted for shooting and killing 4 people at a neighborhood bar. Officials warn the suspect is extremely dangerous. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault with more.
Tonight, the intensifying search for the suspect accused in the gruesome killing of a Tennessee family of 4, allegedly kidnapping and then abandoning their infant last week. Authorities believe Austin Drummond knew the family and is still in the area, charging 4 other people in connection with the crime, 3 of them believed to have helped him get away. A $17,000 reward now being offered for tips that lead to an arrest. And in Montana, in a separate case, hundreds of officers searching for Michael Brown, who authorities say shot and killed 4 people Friday at his neighborhood bar.
By all indications, this is an unstable individual who walked in and murdered 4 people in cold blood for no reason whatsoever.
Authorities say Brown was a regular at the Owl Bar and likely knew all 4 victims. Officials releasing this image, saying he'd shed most of his clothes and fled the scene.
We have a visual of someone on Ash Street.
He allegedly stole a vehicle with camping gear and may now be hiding in the mountains.
We are acting under the assumption that he is alive, well, armed, and extremely dangerous.
Trevor Alt reporting. Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail ahead of his October sentencing. A federal judge found Combs had not met the standards of exceptional reasons to be released. Combs' attorney had argued that he was at risk of harm at the federal jail in Brooklyn after a violent threat from a fellow inmate. Combs was found guilty last month of transportation to engage in prostitution, which the judge said necessitates incarceration. His sentencing is October 3rd. Still ahead, just how many Americans say they are feeling the pinch more than ever at the grocery store? But first, a home to call your own. It's a crucial piece of the American dream. But with a house comes property taxes, and it appears some neighborhoods are being unfairly charged. We dive into the nationwide pattern of what's called highballed tax assessments in tonight's Prime Focus.
Take me back to that moment when you realized that you would be losing your home.
I sat down and I said, oh my God, I'm 70 years old and I'm homeless.
Welcome back, everyone. A key part of the American dream is homeownership. But with that comes a responsibility many homeowners dread: property taxes. Some Americans claim their property tax bills are disproportionately high, and a new analysis by ABC's own television station shows that's exactly what's happening to many homeowners in majority non-white neighborhoods. The data shows a nationwide pattern of what's called highballed tax assessments. In tonight's Prime Focus, ABC News investigates how high taxes can also leave homeowners homeless. Here's our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott.
That's where we used to gather to bring the family together.
For 70-year-old Benita Anderson, this Baltimore house became a safe haven, a place that her 5 children and 8 grandchildren could call their own. But a cancer diagnosis in 2020 changed everything.
When I started feeling better, that's when I got the mail.
Benita was already struggling with mounting bills. Then it was a letter from the city of Baltimore letting her know she owed about $5,000 in back taxes from the last year.
That's what I paid. But they say they applied that to other tax years versus applying it to the year that it was for.
By 2022, the city of Baltimore put a lien on Benita's house that was then auctioned off to the highest bidder.
Take me back to that moment when you realized that you would be losing your home.
I sat down and I said, oh my God, I'm 70 years old and I'm homeless.
Benita is one of many across the country who found herself highballed, facing disproportionately high property tax bills and ultimately losing her home at a government sale.
If you can't afford to pay your property taxes and you keep missing your payments, government is going to auction your property off for back taxes.
Property taxes are based on an assessment, the government's best guess of how much a home is worth.
So there are a lot of variables. If the assessment system is not working the way it is, it could create tremendous distortions from homeowner to homeowner. Somebody living next door to you could be paying proportionately far more than you're paying.
Take Benita's old neighborhood as an example, where 97% of residents are Black, and the typical tax bill is around $3,800. A few miles away in the majority white Baltimore neighborhood of Cross Country, homeowners tend to pay lower taxes, but their homes are actually worth 50% more.
In suburbia, where you have a high level of segregation, the people who are being taxed unfairly based on not accurately capturing the value of their home are people of color.
In Baltimore, where Benita lives, 92% of properties listed at tax sales from 2019 through 2023 were in majority non-white neighborhoods. And an analysis by ABC News and its own station's data journalism team found that this is a nationwide pattern, causing thousands of people in communities like Benita's to lose their homes each year. We found on average, people in those neighborhoods pay disproportionately high property taxes compared to those in majority white neighborhoods, at times even in the same county. It's a story our colleagues heard across the country.
We are like up the creek.
with nowhere to go, no help, nothing.
Just keep praying and asking the Lord to just keep me afloat.
It's the entire block and the entire neighborhood that this is happening to.
Outside Philadelphia, our station WPVI met 91-year-old Gloria Gaynor. She lost her home of 25 years because of an unpaid tax bill totaling $3,500. During COVID, Gloria was unable to pay her tax bills in person, so she fell behind on her 2020 and 2021 property taxes.
My mom, she wouldn't go out. She didn't take any vaccine. She said she wasn't going out. She have a lot of underlying issues.
But when she ultimately made her payments in 2022, the tax office applied them to the current and previous years, leaving an outstanding balance for 2020. Now suffering from dementia, Gloria and her family fought in court to stop the sale, but they lost the lawsuit and their appeal.
Hey, Ma.
A real estate investor bought Gloria's home worth about $250,000 from the county for only $14,000, the cost of her overdue taxes plus interest and fees. Gloria had already paid off almost all of the mortgage, but she got nothing from the sale. And while this is legal, Gloria's attorneys argue it's unfair.
This is stripping generational wealth from the have-nots and allowing the haves to have it.
The Delaware County Tax Claim Bureau told ABC News that while the county sympathizes with the emotional toll on Gloria, the agency followed state law and sent multiple notices ahead of the sale.
Although local governments should do everything they can to keep people in their homes, whether it's an owner or a renter, at some point they have an obligation to all the other taxpayers, the businesses, the families that are paying their fair share to make sure that these taxes are collected.
What do you love most about living in Baltimore?
That's where my family is.
Benita, now living with her daughter, joined a lawsuit claiming the city of Baltimore broke federal law by selling her house to a private company for pennies on the dollar. The city has defended its actions in court, saying it notified Benita as required, adding the city did not profit from the sale.
This works for the government because it sells the liens promptly, and it works for the tax sale purchasers.
In 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that local governments could not profit from tax sales. Instead, the court ruled that homeowners have a constitutional right to any payments beyond taxes and penalties they owe. Many states across the country have recently changed their laws in light of that Supreme Court decision. Some municipalities even go beyond what the court required, taking extra steps to keep vulnerable homeowners in their homes, like requiring in-person notifications before a sale or offering payment plans to redeem a home after it's been sold.
The federal answer to lower local property taxes is more funding for local services. They need more help from Congress and the White House.
As the Trump administration has slashed the federal budget, local governments will have to make up the difference to provide the same services. Experts say they will likely rely more on property taxes, which in turn could mean more situations like Benita's, where homeowners in majority non-white neighborhoods too often pay more than their fair share.
You bought that home with dreams of this idea of passing it on generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that dream now?
It died. What? I'm sorry. It still makes me emotional. It's just hard. Very hard.
A dream deferred for so many. Our thanks to Rachel Scott for that report. Just last week, Benita Anderson's former Baltimore home was put on the market for nearly $540,000, more than 5 times what she actually paid for it. But she will not see any of those proceeds and still has no home of her own. Coming up, how much protein do we really need in our diet? And does the amount change as we age? We'll quiet the controversy and give you the healthy tips you need. And it was no joke just how did this NHL mascot attract the unwanted attention of a very real grizzly bear? Welcome back, everyone. It's one of the most important pillars of a balanced diet, protein, especially for those trying to lose weight or trying to maintain or add muscle strength. There are a number of ways to get your correct protein intake, but what's the best for us and how much do we really need? Let's take a look by the numbers. Here's a good guide for how much protein we should be getting from the USDA recommended dietary allowance based on a typical weight of 150 pounds. Adult men from 19 to 50 years old should be getting at least 56 grams. Women in the same age range should be getting at least 46 grams. As for adult men over the age of 50, the recommendation is at least 53 grams of protein, while the recommendation for women remains at least 46 grams. Another guide to figure it out, used by many nutritionists, is cut your weight in half and eat that many grams on average a day. The amount of protein foods you need depends, of course, on your age, sex, height, weight, and physical activity. The amount can also depend on whether or not you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Protein foods include all foods made from seafood, meat, poultry, eggs, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and soy products. And now we're all hungry for more on this. We welcome Dr. Nate Wood, the Director of Culinary Medicine at Yale School of Medicine and the Co-Director of the Weight Management Clinic at the New Haven Primary Care Consortium. First and foremost, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Why are proteins so important for us?
Yeah, proteins are helpful for a lot of things. I think everyone's really obsessed with this right now. Am I getting enough protein? And the answer is you're probably getting enough protein.
Okay.
Most people are, but it's good for a lot of things in the body. All these chemical reactions run on enzymes. Those are proteins. You want to build healthy muscles, that takes a lot of protein. You want to keep your weight the same or lose some weight, protein becomes really important. And especially as we age, we want to keep those muscles that keep us functioning so we don't have falls and we're able to do the things we love.
There are so many bars and you name it out there now that will claim that they are protein packed.
Yes.
What should you actually be looking for when you're reading those ingredient labels?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking that they need to supplement their protein intake with bars and powders. And again, most people probably don't need to, but for those of us who like to have a protein bar to keep us going, or if you want a little bit of extra protein, a protein bar or a shake is fine. Just look for something that doesn't have a lot of extra sugars added to it. That's a big pitfall. If there's some fiber, that's always a good thing too. And look for kind of some cleaner ingredients. And so particularly if you're looking at a jerky or something like that, you want to make sure it doesn't have any added nitrates or nitrites. That's a processed meat and has been linked to cancer. So really stick to those ones that don't have those.
Does the when matter as far as, oh, I should make sure my breakfast is full of protein or my last meal before I go to bed?
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. So you probably hear oh, I'm working out, I'm trying to gain a whole bunch of muscle. I need to really have this post-workout protein hit. Not necessarily true. Your body's pretty good about using the protein whenever you eat it. But, you don't want to wake up, have a meal that's just kind of all carbs and no protein, and then within a couple of hours, you have that sugar crash and you're left feeling very hungry and you're not going to make it to lunch. So in that way, you do want to be sure you're getting a little bit of protein throughout the day to stay full.
Is there such a thing as having too much protein in your diet?
We think so. Yeah, the research isn't amazing, I'll say that, so that's a big caveat. But the risk really is that when you eat too much protein, your kidneys have to kind of go into overdrive, hyperfiltration it's called. They have to work extra hard. And if you do put your kidneys into this hyperfiltration state for many decades, theoretically we think it may have some trouble for you down the line. If you already have kidney damage from something like chronic kidney disease or for type 2 diabetes, again, that hyperfiltration state is probably not good for you long term.
So what's ultimately, as far as best advice that you might provide for someone who's just looking to get the appropriate daily intake of protein?
Yeah, most people, around 85% of us, get enough protein without even trying. So step one, take a deep breath out, you're probably doing okay. When you are looking to get your protein, focus on whole food sources. So of course, plant-based proteins are best. Beans, nuts, seeds, legumes. I think lentils. I think people don't understand that whole grains have a lot of protein in them, so feel free to lean on those. But you can also supplement with some seafood, some lean animal proteins, eggs, low-fat dairy, all of that is great. Try to get your protein targets from those foods alone, and then, like I said, supplement if you need to.
Super helpful, Dr. Nate Wood. We thank you so much for your insight. Really
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up, it's a scene so real and so raw, it earned the film an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. Now that scene is being used as a way to scare off predators eyeing up livestock. Plus, it's a beloved adult animation series in its revival era, how King of the Hill is returning to a whole new world and set in a whole new town. Our conversation with the voice of Bobby is next. How many Americans are now saying the cost of groceries is a major source of stress in their lives? An iconic, albeit tense scene from an Oscar-nominated film is being used to scare off predators. And a baseball fan takes an opportunity at bat and hits the home run of a lifetime. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. The European Union, which consists of 27 countries, has announced a 6-month delay in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods that were intended to take effect on Thursday if a trade deal with the U.S. failed. The delay will give the U.S. and the EU time to negotiate final details of the deal. In the deal, the U.S. will charge a 15% tariff on all EU goods sold in the U.S., and the EU will lift all tariffs charged on U.S. goods sold in the EU. The suspension will be formally adopted on Tuesday. The majority of Americans say they're feeling the pinch at the grocery store. A recent survey from the Associated Press found 53% of those surveyed say that the cost of groceries is a major source of stress in their life right now, as compared to 14% who say that grocery prices are not a source of stress. The survey also found 4 in 10 under the age of 45 admit to using buy now, pay later services like Klarna or Afterpay to pay for groceries, entertainment, and meals. The bear that sent a blue-haired mascot scrambling. John Hayden, a player on the NHL Seattle Kraken and the team's mascot, Bowie the Troll, had a photo shoot interrupted by a grizzly bear. They were fishing in Alaska when the bear started making a run at them. Bowie was not quickly moving, but the bear luckily turned away. Hayden said the grizzly must have been attracted by the troll's blue hair. Luckily, no one was hurt. A hiker in Forest Falls, California was rescued after plunging 25 feet down a waterfall onto the rocks below. The hiker was heard screaming for help. Rescuers hiked to his location, airlifting him to the hospital. They say he lost his footing trying to cross a slippery part of the falls.
I can't believe I have to know you forever!
If this fight scene from the movie Marriage Story stresses you out, you are not alone. The USDA thinks that all that yelling between Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver could scare wolves away from killing cattle. According to the Wall Street Journal, drones equipped with thermal cams can detect the wolves, bathe them in spotlights, and then blare loud sounds like fireworks, AC/DC, gunshots, and shouting from movies like A Marriage Story. The so-called wolf hazing is seen as a harmless way to scare off the endangered gray wolves. No reason to be salty for this mega fan of the Portland Pickles. Over the weekend, a fan who went by Dixie hit a 2-run homer when the collegiate summer baseball team invited him to the batter's box. Wearing simply a pair of shorts, sneakers, and a jersey, the fan drew a walk and went on to score a run. But it was the 8th inning where the legend of Dixie grew, hitting a 2-run home run, turning Fan Appreciation Night into a possible scouting opportunity. Time tonight for the latest in our series Streamlined, where we bring you some of the biggest films and TV series hitting screens worldwide, speaking with some of the actors and creators behind them. The beloved adult animation series King of the Hill is returning to fans' delight after 15 years for season 14. Set in the fictional town of Arlen, Texas, the original series followed the life of Hank Hill, a seller of propane, his wife Peggy, and their son Bobby. Now in the revival, Hank and Pam are empty nesters, and Bobby is an adult navigating life in a new town. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Bobby Hill, executive chef of Robota Chain. As the hardest working Japanese-German hibachi jockey in Dallas, I have what it takes to be the next king of the grill.
And joining us now, the voice of Bobby, Pamela Adlon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
As you know, fans are thrilled King of the Hill is back. What was your initial reaction when you heard we're going to bring this thing back?
Too good to be true. One of those things that, you know, somebody floats a rumor over the past 15 years and you're like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. And it's rare air when everything can come together in that way. And honestly, it's not just for the sake of doing a revival. It's hitting right where the sweet spot is of the show, which is like the good vintage stuff that people want to see, and a new, fresh kind of spin on the characters by making them a little bit older. And the characters that we know and love are their own fish out of water coming back to their hometown.
So Bobby Hill is now in his 20s. He's a chef. It's a big jump from when we last knew him as a younger man. Give us a sense of that transition now that he's an adult.
Well, I guess for the first 8 seasons, Bobby was 12. And then until season 13, he was 13. So that was a huge jump. And now he's 21. He's working in the service industry. He's a chef, and his friends go to college, and he feels a little left out in that respect. But he's really like working hard, and he's got that work ethic that his father instilled in him, and that creative that his mother instilled in him. And he's still got all of that outside juice that he brought to his family.
So after years of selling propane in Saudi Arabia, Hank and Peggy are now retired. They're back in Arlen, Texas. Give us a sense of how the town has changed since they were last there.
Well, I think it would be the same for all of us if we went away for 15 years and came back to the same place. But them going to another continent or the other side of the world in a town that was built to resemble, an all-American town is kind of a great device, but it's a very grounded, real way to drop us in to that world that we all know and love so well.
And the show has always been praised for its authentic approach to portraying Texas culture.
Yeah.
What is it that you think you guys have gotten so right that people say, yeah, that's pretty accurate?
Well, it's funny because you would think that it would just be people, American Southerners who would be so into this show, but really there's no demographic for this show, and it surprises me constantly because it's about a family, it's about, the day-to-day struggle, and it's about, the aspirational middle that we all want to get back to because everything is just so very extreme. And the show has never been political, even though it's set in the American South. And it's just observational and gentle and sweet, but it's got an edge and it's really funny.
Pamela, we thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Want to let our viewers know season 14 of King of the Hill is now streaming on Hulu. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.